Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We'll just give it a little minute whilst everybody's transitioning from the waiting room and into the meeting, but lovely to have you here. I hope the sun is shining. It's very much shining where I am, so I hope the sun is shining where you are. Welcome to today's webinar. Let me find some slides to share if the tech is behaving itself. Go. Fab. So today's workshop, hopefully you're in the right place. Help, I'm a sustainability lead, now what? This is the second of these sort of this workshop type, I guess. We last week we did one for people who are leading on sustainability for their whole MAT. And this week's session is aimed at sort of people who are sustainability lead for their schools. And the reason for sort of separating that out is just that sometimes there are some sort of additional expectations or requirements and things that, you know, MAT leads might have a slightly different approach to school leads and things like that. So we have separated it out. Having said that, if you're joining and you're the lead for your MAT on sustainability, you're very, very welcome here. You're very welcome to stay. The other option you've got, if you would prefer, is Suzanne's going to pop the YouTube link because it was recorded into the chat for you. So if you're thinking, oh, actually, maybe that MAT session might be more appropriate for me, we won't be at all offended if you drop off and you catch up on the replay. So this session is going to be primarily aimed at school leads for you know, people who are leads within their schools for sustainability. We're also doing the Let's Go Zero webinars slightly differently this academic year. So if any of you have been on our webinars before, you probably will have met the lovely Suzanne, who's on the call as well today, and she has previously led all of our webinars. This year we are trying something different, and we're getting all of our Climate Action Advisor team to lead on particular webinars that sort of match their areas of sort of experience and expertise. Yes, slightly different approach. You'll see some new faces, and hopefully it'll be nice to meet the sort of nationwide Climate Action Advisor team as well. And we're also joined by some sort of wonderful guest experts today, and we'll introduce them in just a little minute. So this is our agenda. It's going to be quite a packed session. Welcome, housekeeping and intros. We're in the middle of that at the moment. And then we're going to have a little look at what we've sort of called sustainability lead essentials. So we're going to have a think about, like, what is a sustainability lead? Why are you being asked to have one within your setting? And who might be sustainability lead? You know, what are some of the things that you might be asked to do? And what are some of the common challenges? I think there's probably going to be quite an important thing to discuss. What are some of the common challenges that people are facing? And then think about perhaps some ways that we can support around that. And we'll finish off with signposting to some further support and resources. Another difference that we're doing with the sort of workshops or webinars this academic year is that we're trialling doing breakout rooms as well, with a recognition that, you know, if you are a sustainability lead in your school, in your setting, that you might feel quite isolated. You might feel a little bit like, you know, it can be a difficult job trying to engage everybody else and get everybody else on board. And so really hoping that an opportunity to sort of share, whether that's challenges or experiences or ideas, or just have a good old natter with sort of other people in similar positions, might be really, really helpful. And we know that there's lots of brilliant ideas and best practice happening in schools, and we're really hoping that these breakout rooms can be a way of kind of cross-pollinating around that. So you know, in those breakout rooms, we are very aware that we're going to have people who are right at the start of their journey, and we'll probably have people who are further on as well. So if you're at the start, please don't be intimidated. And if you're further on, you know, we really hope to sort of benefit from your expertise and things. So hopefully that all sounds useful. The first 30 minutes are going to be recorded. So that's why everybody's on webinar mode and got their cameras turned off, and then the breakout rooms won't be recorded. So if you have got access to cameras and microphones and those sorts of things, please do have them sort of ready to go in the breakout rooms, because it's much nicer to facilitate a sort of group discussion when people have got cameras on. So I hope that makes sense. In terms of introductions to our Let's Go Zero sort of facilitation team, I'm Jen. I'm one of the Climate Action Advisors in the Southwest team. We've also got Will. Give us a wave, Will. is on camera. He's one of my colleagues in the Southwest, and we've got Felicity as well, who is one of our colleagues in the Southeast team. So that's our sort of facilitation team, and we will be try and split up into the breakout rooms. So you've got someone from Let's Go Zero in each of the breakout rooms to support them. And we're joined by 3 lovely guest speakers. So we've got Sean and Jackie. Give us a wave, Sean and Jackie. We can just, you're on a joint camera, so it's lovely. We can just see 2 of your shoulders. They're joining us from Westbury-on-Trim Academy, just outside Bristol. And the reason I wanted them to come along was because they're both have quite different roles within the school, but are both working on the school's climate action plan and sort of sustainability and things. And I thought it was a really interesting approach, the way they've come at it with sort of different roles. And it's a really good example of how you probably do need to pull in people with different roles and expertise within the school. And we're also joined by Ed. Give us a wave, Ed. Lots of you might be already know Ed. He's very prolific on social media, I will say, especially at the moment, Ed, as he's got a book to promote. Ed is a primary school teacher, and he is now head of education at Green Schools Project and an author, and he'll be sharing his book in a little minute when we talk about resources. So excited to be hearing from those guys in a little minute. So over to you guys. I would love to get a little bit of interaction going in the chat. So if you're happy to, in the chat, can you let us know who you are, the name of your school, what your role is, if you aren't, or you probably have an additional role alongside sustainability lead. So what your roles are, whether you're sustainability lead, whether you're teacher, school business manager, all of those sorts of things. And if you are sustainability lead, then how long you've been sustainability lead. So I'll just give everyone sort of a minute to start popping that in the chat. I would love to say there'll be a prize for whoever's bravest to kind of pop something into the chat first, but we don't have any prizes to send out. But if it was live, I'd kind of be lobbing you some chocolates or something. Alison, you win the prize that isn't a prize. Thank you. Operations manager at Rainhill High, just been asked. I love the phrase I came across recently, voluntold. Voluntold, perhaps some of you have been voluntold to be sustainability lead. So that's brilliant. Thank you. Katie at Rodine in Brighton, also sustainability lead. Only able to join for 10 minutes. That's okay, Jan. This is being, as I've said, the first 30 minutes is being recorded. And you will get, I should have said, after the session, we'll be sending out the recording and a PDF of the slides and any additional resources and things that come out. So don't panic if you can't join for the whole thing. Fabulous. It looks like we've got a really nice mix. We've got some nurseries. We've got Nina's been sustainability lead for a whole week. Well done, Nina. That's amazing. And we've got people, a nice sort of geographic spread around the country as well. So brilliant. Thank you, guys. Do keep them coming because I'm quite nosy. And the very last bit of the intros is to just give you a very brief intro to Let's Go Zero for those of you who don't know us or haven't come across us before. So Let's Go Zero is part of a climate charity called Ashton, and we are the sort of schools campaign, schools side of the work that they do. And we have 2 sides to the work that we do. So we've got a campaign where we're asking schools, maths, all educational settings to sign up to the campaign. It doesn't obligate you to anything, but it basically says, yes, we have an ambition for climate action, and we would really love some more support and policies and ideally funding in the right direction. So there's a QR code there on the screen if people have got mobile phones and things to hand and are happy to sign up to that. That link will also be in the slides and in the resources, so don't panic scrabbling around to try and do anything with that just at the moment. And then the Climate Action Advisors Project is what Will, Felicity and I are all part of, and there's 32 of us around the country. And we're essentially supporting schools to, get sustainability leads in place and get these things called climate action plans, which we'll discuss a little bit more as well, in place. And yes, we're sort of working with hundreds of schools really around the country, supporting them to do that. So actually, can you maybe give us a yes or some indication in the chat if you are already being supported by a climate action advisor in the chat? That would be lovely to know as well. And obviously, if you're not already being supported, we will be providing you with links and things if that would be helpful. So I'm going to hand over to Will, I think.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. Lovely to have you all here this afternoon. So Yeah, as Jen alluded to in the agenda, I'm going to cover the essentials, basically, of being a sustainability lead in a school. And I can see from the chat that a number of you have literally just taken up the mantle. So big hats off to you for doing that. And some of you have already been doing it so far, which is great. And again, like Jen said, with the breakout rooms coming up, there'll be really good opportunity to share some of that knowledge and experience that some people might have gained so far. So, as I'm sure lots of you are by now aware, the Department for Education Sustainability and Climate Change Strategy, released in April 2022, says that all schools should have a nominated sustainability lead. That's why you're here, I'm very much expecting, as well as a climate action plan in place by 2025. So, whilst not a statutory requirement, I hesitate to say yet, it's not statutory. But settings are still wanting to take climate action for a number of reasons. So why is the role of sustainability lead so vital? Well, firstly, it ensures compliance. So you'll be helping the school and also the wider MAT or DARCIS, if you're part of that, meet the requirements of the DfE strategy, obviously. But there are other statutory responsibilities relating to the school estates, health and safety, safeguarding, which a sustainability lead, whilst maybe not primarily responsible for, would be able to contribute towards if there's a MAT lead in those areas. So really, really important role. So hugely important in terms of the compliance, but we're also very excited about the co-benefits that the role of sustainability lead brings in a school. So I'm just going to talk through those now. So firstly, you will be identifying ways to improve energy, water and waste efficiency. Huge co-benefit. We know that schools have got little to no money left in their budgets spare. So any cost savings that can be made through energy efficiencies are very, very broadly welcomed. In terms of culture change as well, I think this role provides the authority and ethical leadership needed to embed sustainability within your school. We know there are clear links between taking action, for example, taking measures to reduce pollution outside of school gates, and the improved mental and physical well-being of the school community, not just the children, the wider school community as a result. It's a perfect role for increasing knowledge and confidence of your colleagues, of staff, of the learners, and really helping them become leaders in climate action and sustainability, and preparing our young people for industries and jobs of the future. And lastly, building resilience. So developing strategies in your role to adapt to the impacts of climate change and ensuring the long-term stability of the educational estate. That sounds quite daunting. It's very, very much a team effort, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We were going to choose one of these quotes, but they're both brilliant, and so we just thought we'd put both on here. But two very well-known people. Barack Obama, we're the first generation to feel the impact of climate change and the last generation that can do something about it. And of course, the wonderful Sir David Attenborough, what happens now and in these next few years will profoundly affect the next few thousand years. So in summary, the time for action is now, and we're in a very privileged position within education to have a significant impact. And what starts with young people will undoubtedly ripple out into the wider community. So now I'm going to talk more about what the key responsibilities might look like, and emphasis on the word might. Your role might be different in your school. Obviously, context is key. So working with senior leadership team is critical. If you're not on the SLT, when we're working with schools, we very much advocate that somebody on the senior leadership team, ideally the head, maybe the business manager, maybe even a deputy or an assistant, has really put impetus and energy behind this role. Yes, there are lots of competing priorities in school. I used to work in school leadership myself, so I understand, in terms of the number of plates that are being spun at the same time in school environment. But having SLT on board and sharing the load with this is really, really important. Making sure that you are part of a diocesan or MAT sustainability strategy, if you're part of a diocesan or MAT, with a commitment to reduce carbon emissions and other environmental targets. So a team effort is absolutely vital. It shouldn't just sit on your shoulders. As you can see, the Climate Action Plan and Let's Go Zero, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let's Go Zero, Climate Action Advisors can very much help with support your schools with putting together a climate action plan. So the oversight, monitoring and reviewing schools' progress towards sustainability goals is also a really important part of the role in terms of reducing emissions. Knowledge sharing, so CPD across the school, facilitating knowledge sharing and innovation across the school team. There's loads and loads of CPD options and free resources out there. For example, carbon literacy training, lots of providers, of which Let's Go Zero is one. I've recently undertaken carbon literacy training myself, and it's one of the best things I've done. It's absolutely fantastic. So really, just in terms of sharing that CPD across the school is something that you will be responsible for as sustainability lead. And community engagement and embedding the culture of sustainability is one of the most important things you can do. It's potentially also one of the hardest. So you take your easy wins and you build on those. So you work with local authorities, you can work with environmental groups, community members to support and enhance local sustainability projects. And as Jen said at the outset, you may have been voluntold to be here. I think there was an example, Jen, we were discussing the other day, of one school sustainability lead was asked to do it as they were the only person who cycled to school. That made them qualify for the role. So great, got to start somewhere, but hopefully you've recognised, and you're going to hear from our guests in a moment about what such an important role it is. So yeah, so who can be sustainability? It could be the Eco Club lead, the geography science lead, the site manager, a high-level teaching assistant, senior leadership, or the school business manager. And if you're none of those things on that list, that's fine too. So it's not an exhaustive list, but it's often somebody who's either shown an interest, shown a passion for sustainability, or has got links to it. If you're not feeling like that and you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed, well, Let's Go Zero here to help. So I'm going to hand over to Jackie and Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I suppose we'll start off by just saying that we began our journey on this kind of Let's Go Zero campaign from probably November last year.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to have Jen come along and have a meeting with us for pretty much the whole day. Jackie put together a really good kind of program of events through the day. I don't know if you want to talk about those as to what we actually did on that particular first meeting.
Yeah, so we had a assembly with the children to get them engaged, and we spoke to various stakeholders across the school, including the site manager, catering team, people like that, and that gave Jen sort of an idea of what we were doing in school already, to be able to put together our climate action plan, which we're currently working through at the moment.
Yeah, and then we also had the eco team, which met with Jen and myself. I probably should have said that I'm a year 6 teacher and I'm also the science lead in the school. Jackie is the business manager for the school. So the way that it kind of works for us is that in terms of that sustainability role, there's myself, Jackie, and we also have a parent governor as well. So there's kind of like the triangular approach, which has worked well for us. The one thing that we do have a bit of a problem with sometimes is trying to get everybody together at the same time. We have all good intentions, and I think for myself and Jackie, we've met a couple of times to kind of just make sure that we're on track with our action plan. But yeah, I think that initial meeting was really important for Jen to get a real feel for what the school's like and where we are at the starting point. There was a lot of data that we needed to collect and information. We involved the site manager as well. And I think, that first bit of legwork is pretty difficult at times, but actually it's really, really important so we get a good baseline for where we are. Jen then went away and kind of crunched all the numbers and came back to us with stuff that we still needed to find out, and also kind of created a bit of a carbon footprint for us so we could then start to work out, where we need to put all our efforts really. And actually our action plan stems over kind of short-term quick wins, as well as some others which kind of, are going over a couple of years. And we feel like we're on a good journey at the moment. We've made quite a few changes, and even just before we came to the meeting at lunchtime, we were talking about, do we go with more of the energy side of stuff, where we can kind of involve the curriculum and get the children more involved and bringing down the energy usage that we have. But actually, we're doing quite well in that front. So we just looked and we thought, the big thing that we are having problems with at the moment is food waste. And so actually, we probably need to realign and kind of figure out where we're going to go from there, really. So I would say, from my perspective as a class teacher and a science lead, is that I'm trying to bring everything into the curriculum as much as possible. We've done lots of things over the years anyway, in terms of our eco committee and even Bristol Green Capital in 2015, and lots of different things which are happening. So we've got quite a good ethos already in the school of sustainability over long-term projects, rather than just sort of quick 2-week things. So we've been doing it for a while, but having the Let's Go Zero kind of like focus has really helped us to kind of join up all the dots and work together as a team, as opposed to me doing my thing, Jackie doing her thing. And actually we can see that now we can look and go, what you're doing quite well with a few things, and these are the areas that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I think what's worked well with us is being able to spread the load a bit. So having the governor sort of buying into things and they've helped with things like grant applications and what have you. And then myself on the business side of things, so looking at the premises and the building, the type of energy we're buying, all that sort of stuff, and the purchasing. And as Sean alluded to, Sean's able to get the buy-in with the children and getting them all involved and do the sort of curriculum and educational side of things. So spreading the load and working to our strengths, I think, has worked really well for us. And it's breaking it down into smaller, achievable chunks, which we found works much better than looking at a massive project and thinking, where do we start? So yeah, with our climate action plan, that breaks things down into the smaller chunks, and then it's nice when you're able to tick things off and see the progress that you're making.
Yeah,
it's always nice to have a list to tick things off, isn't it? I think one of the I may be misremembering, but I'm fairly sure at one point it was either on the visit or in the initial call, perhaps with Sean. Sort of Sean realizing that actually, like, Jackie had already started work on sort of other stuff while Sean was sort of busy doing some amazing stuff with Eco Club, and the fact that you then sort of, like, as you said, sort of went like, oh, let's join together, and it felt like the sort of having the plan there was facilitated kind of bringing together two different approaches. And I think quite often a typical thing is that the person who's voluntold or who volunteers to be sustainability lead is that person who's running Eco Club and is either a TA or a teacher. But I think for that very holistic action plan that we're looking at, we do need some of the hard data and the stats and the facts, which you as a teacher might be like, I don't know how to find this, which is where you then sort of need to lean on people in roles like Jackie's. And you guys have done such a wonderful job. One of our top recommendations after you've got a sustainability lead is then to form that working group, and the fact that you've thought to look outside at governors who might sometimes have a little bit more time, capacity, all of those sorts of things. It sounds like you've got a really useful sort of working group with people who've got access to all the little threads that you need to pull together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it can be a bit overwhelming if you're on your own trying to do it. And if you're a teacher, especially, when you've got very little time outside of school as well to do things. So definitely us working together and with the help of yourself as well has made it feel manageable. And actually, we're both quite passionate about this. So that makes it a lot easier. You're more likely to find time for something which you're passionate about than you're not passionate about.
Yes.
And I think together we're going in the right direction, and as I said, the school is on a good journey anyway. But for us, it's, making sure the children have got those sort of sustainability behaviours for learning for the rest of their lives, and they spread it, to their families and the wider community. And that's where we're headed. That's the plan.
Oh, it's amazing. You guys are doing such a brilliant job, and you were already doing so much, before. I remember feeling quite daunted coming to see you because thinking, oh my goodness, they're already like so far on. And so it's really amazing to hear that, even for schools who are sort of much further on in their journey, it's a useful process kind of pulling all of that together. I wish we had longer. I wish I had an hour just to chat to you guys and pepper you with questions and things. And I'm sure, you know, other people have got lots of questions and those sorts of things. But I know you probably both need to disappear. I think got busy things to do before the breakout rooms. But huge thank you to you guys for coming and for all the brilliant work that you're doing. So massive thank you, guys. That was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Thanks.
Right, I think we're going to have a little think about now. Challenges. I'm sure this probably doesn't need even more than a prompt than challenges, but we have got, and let's see if this works, we have got a Teams poll. So let's see if it works. What I would love you to do is have a think about, and it's going to be a word cloud, so try and keep them either to sort of 1 or 2 word answers. But what are some of the challenges that you're already experiencing as sustainability lead? You know, whether you're new to it or have been in it a little while, or if you've literally been in it for a week, you know, what are some of the challenges that you anticipate that you might be facing as sustainability lead? So we've got time came up there straight away. Yeah, absolutely. Time and capacity is something that we hear about all the time. And, you know, what we really hope is that the support that we can provide as climate action advisors is to provide you with a little bit of, you know, we can be an additional bit of capacity for you. So hopefully, you know, that is useful. Funding and money, yes, absolutely. Very common. Unfortunately, we don't have a magic money tree, but we are often aware of funding streams that we can point you in the direction of, whether they're national funding streams or sort of more local ones. We've got access to data. And it seems to have, oh, here we go. I was going to say, I don't seem to have any more things coming up. Wider engagement, yes, I think that can be challenging, and it, as I said right at the start, it can feel quite lonely sometimes being sustainability lead. Inexperience, yes, and I would think that I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I think a few of you might be sat there feeling quite overwhelmed at suddenly being sort of given this additional position, and you know, we're running through that sort of list of things that you might be kind of asked to do, and all of those sorts of things. Collaboration, commitment. Expectations, MAP procedures, yeah, that can be, you know, trying to sort of align with sort of the MAP procedures. Urgency, workload, time's still there in the middle, buy-in from all staff, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, hopefully it's vaguely reassuring to know that, you know, your challenges are not just unique to you. Everybody else is kind of worried about time and overwhelm and engagement and all of those sorts of things as well. Hang on to those challenges, and what we will do is we'll have a little bit of the time in the breakout room to be able to sort of dive into those a little bit, share ideas, you know, we can share some resources that we've got access to as well. But yes, thank you very much for sharing those. And as I said, we haven't got time to kind of dive into them in lots of detail now, but hopefully in the breakout rooms we can sort of start to unpick those a little bit for you, and start to think about some of the support and things that's available. So let me just come away from that. In terms of support, so I think we've already popped some links in the chat, but I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to pop them in again. In terms of further support from Let's Go Zero, you can register for Climate Action Advisor support. So, you know, one of us will be in touch and work out with you the best way that we can support you and get you your climate action plan in place. We have carbon literacy training, which we've shared in the chat, and we also have a whole load of these webinars planned. So I think the next one is around behaviour change in energy. I think, is that correct, Suzanne? Suzanne can correct me in the chat if that's wrong, but I think the next one is planned is for behaviour change. So we've got a whole load of these webinars planned, and also there's a whole back catalogue of the webinars that we've done over the last couple of years on the website. So if you want to watch those back, and if you're watching back, you can always watch it on 1.5 speed and feel like you're being super productive, can't you? We have a newsletter that you can sign up for, which signpost resources and sort of lots more. And then I'll flick through this slide very quickly, because you will get this slide and all of these links are sort of hyperlinked, so you'll be able to explore them and things. But really, I just wanted to make sure that we had time for Ed to share some of his sort of recommendations and top tips based on his experience in terms of resources, or where people should, you know, starting points for people who are just starting out feeling a bit overwhelmed. So over to you, Ed. Oh, just unmute, I think, Ed.
I need to get used to it. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, I've got my book, 100 Ideas for Primary School Teachers, Greener School. We're forwarded by Dr. Jane Goodall and endorsed by many different companies, including Let's Go Zero, Climate Action Advisors, Climate Ambassadors, and Eco Schools. Yeah, I think my big top tip would be to start small. Start with one thing. Look at your climate action plan and what's a priority, and go from there. My book gives many different topics. It's based on like 10 different topics that include energy, biodiversity, waste, transport, school grounds, many different ideas. For example, upcycling different containers so everybody can garden, whether you don't have a garden or not. Also encouraging that outside of school too. Also, we have looking at the 8 R's and looking at waste reduction, weighing your food waste, and then doing a campaign around that.
Ed, one question I had was, I think primary school, from my experience, it's relatively easy to engage the kids and get them excited and get them kind of joining in with lots of stuff. A couple of the things that came through on that word cloud were things around engaging like the other staff and getting other people on board. Did you experience any challenges around that, and have you got sort of any tips for how to motivate your colleagues a little bit around this?
Yeah, all the time. When I first started out, I had the same problems. There's always a few that sort of digging their heels in and have, they want to stick to what they've always done. And yeah, I would say do a project. Probably show, if you're doing it within your class, showcase what you're doing. Children speak a lot. If other children are seeing what your class is doing, then they'll soon go over to like Mrs. Green or whatever and say, oh, why can't we do that? Mr. Moore's doing that, so why can't we have a go at doing that sort of thing? Sort of bit of peer pressure.
Yeah.
Also encourage, turn it into a competition.
Yes.
At the end of the day, staff love a competition more than the children. If there's a good prize to be won and they want a bit of bragging rights too with it, then throw a competition out there.
Yeah, amazing, brilliant, thank you. So again, really sorry to cut you off, but I know you've also got an event to dash off to as well. So a huge thank you to you for coming. What we're going to do now is head off into breakout rooms, probably for I would say probably 15 minutes, I think, Suzanne, if that's okay, so that we've got time to sort of come and do a little roundup afterwards. So yes, one of us will be in the breakout room to sort of facilitate the chat, but we'll have a little we'll try and do a little bit of troubleshooting, I guess, for people who are feeling particularly overwhelmed right at the start of this journey, all of those sorts of things. And if you've got any wonderful ideas to share, then have them to hand to share with everyone as well. So we're going to head into breakout rooms for 15 minutes and then reconvene. What would that be? 16:35. Welcome back, everyone. It's brutal, isn't it? I don't know how. I'm in two minds whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, the fact that you just get abruptly booted out, because it's very difficult when you do in-person workshops to get people to stop talking and come back in. So we have that, which is easier, but it is very brutal getting cut off mid-sentence in conversations. So we'll just do a really quick roundup of some of the things that were coming up in the breakout rooms, if that's okay with the Let's Go Zero people were in there. We were talking about having the time to do the job, which is a real challenge, isn't it? And sort of saying that one of the key recommendations we make is that not only do schools have a sustainability lead, but they actually have some dedicated PPA time to do that. And I know that's easier said than done. We were talking about old Victorian schools and no money and sort of energy usage. We touched on transport. I promised that I would share an example sustainable procurement policy in the chat, so I will do that shortly. And we had one other really big thing that we were talking about, and I can't remember it. Yes, I will pop any resources that I didn't get time to pop in the chat for my group into the chat. Will, how about you guys?
Yeah, really good. So we a range of experience of the role. So a few people have literally just in the last week or so taken up the mantle. So probably feeling a little bit like trying to glean as much as possible via webinars like this and support. So I think it was Matt up in the Midlands. He's already worked with our Let's Go Zero team and has a climate action plan. So that was really good hearing from him in terms of like what that looks like in practice. But still lots to do. But trying to take the easy wins. And then we ended up having a conversation about food waste and just about how yeah, I mean it was a bit more specific, but I think the very much the feeling from the group is it's an important role, but there's you know it's about time and it's about trying to find out as much as possible, and that's why we're here.
Brilliant, thanks, Will. Felicity.
So we had quite a few people who were right at the start of their journey and a couple of people who are about a year in, sharing some of the things that they've done in that first year. And we had somebody who's been largely trying to do a lot of this stuff by herself, you know, and saying that it is a lot to take on, particularly if you don't have that kind of, you know, dedicated time. You're doing it alongside everything else. But we had somebody else who has got a really quite substantial working group behind her. She was involved with Our Schools, Our World, and so that's they've got a working group in place which actually includes people from all across their support services as well as their school, and it can be a very different experience. But so we were talking about mostly we were talking about capacity and that sort of that spreading the load and bringing other expertise into the room, but also just very much I think kind of backing up what Ed said and what others have said around starting small, like build your foundations, try and get the right people in the room, understand what you're already doing, because there are so many pockets of activity usually in schools, even right at the beginning of their journeys.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I just remembered the other thing that we were talking about was people feeling like they didn't really know where to find the data for energy and things like that if you're if you're a member of teaching staff, and the fact that it might be one very beleaguered office admin person who is already snowed under and you feel really bad for kind of going and giving them kind of additional jobs to do. Alex, did you have a breakout room?
I did, yeah. So I guess we have three main things that came out of our room. The first was the importance of baselining or auditing where you are. So one of the participants spoke about how when they began on their journey a couple of years ago, they were lucky enough to have a carbon footprint done by their local council.
Wow.
And how useful that was as an insight into where emissions came from. So we spoke a little bit about how you can do that yourself at the start of your journey to give you that insight. The second thing we spoke about was a bit like what Felicity just spoke to, recognizing what you're already doing, and the fact that lots of schools will already be doing fantastic things, and that's absolutely right to celebrate and put on your climate action plan. You know, it's good to put on actions you're already underway with and having that motivation and momentum at the beginning of your journey. And then the third thing we spoke about was communicating outwards and involving the wider community in this work. So the parents, the local community, using your newsletters or your website to make people clear about where you're going on your sustainability journey. So those were the three things that came out of our room.
Perfect, thank you, Alex. And Suzanne, did you have a group as well?
I had a very small group who couldn't turn on their cameras or mics, unfortunately. Teams was not playing ball, and they couldn't get into breakout rooms either. So we had a conversation over the chat about how to get started, getting in touch with the Climate Action Advisor. Yeah. What are the sort of next steps? What, quick wins, that sort of thing. So amazing. I hope it was helpful for
I mean, it sounds like you were heroic to do that. It's very challenging to try and run a breakout room, isn't it, when nobody can talk to you and nobody can and yeah, you can't sort of get any feedback from people. We've got 3 minutes left, which really surprises me. So has anybody got any, as I said, I'm aware that this is such a short space of time, and we would love to, and hopefully you will have opportunities to kind of sit down with one of us and kind of dig into this a lot more if you're keen to access support. But has anybody got a particular burning question or you know, a resource they would love or anything like that that we might be able to help with in the last kind of 2 minutes before we need to disappear. So I'll give everyone a minute to have a little think and see if there's anything you want to pop into the chat. As a reminder, we will send out the recording and the slides in the next couple of days. Sarah, you've got your hands up.
Hi, yeah. My question is really around the climate action advisors and how that works. Do we email or chat on Zoom, or how does that logistically work?
Great question. So Suzanne hopefully will be able to pop a link into the chat where to our website when the Register for Climate Action Advisor support. You register and then sort of goes through to our central team, and they assign you out to a regional team depending on where in the country you are, and then from there the regional team leads assign you to an individual climate action advisor. So if you're in the southeast or the southwest, you may well end up with me or Will or Felicity, but we have a wider team as well in the southeast and southwest, and then one of them will email you, get in touch, and use the usual process is then setting up an initial Teams call with you, and from there we can kind of almost triage isn't quite the right word, but we can assess, you know, how best we can get you started and how best we can get you a climate action plan. And we've got various different sort of routes to work with you to get that. So if you click on that link that Suzanne's popped in the chat, someone will be in touch, and you register, someone will be in touch with you. But that was it's almost as if we planted you there actually in order to allow us to give that plug right at the very end. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you everyone so much. Go on, Felicity.
I was just going to say, because I saw somebody ask this in the chat, but for anybody else who was wondering more widely, we are a free service. We're philanthropically funded, so we are free to schools to work with us. And there are some other great free services out there as well that can also support you, and links for some of those are going to be in those slides. So there you go. Just answer that one.
Maggie, we've just hit time. So if you're able to hang on, I think we're probably very happy to hang on to sort of answer your question. But for everybody else, thank you so much for sort of coming on. Thank you so much for your time. You know, and I hope, you know, even just knowing that you're not the only one who's been voluntold to do this and sort of feeling a little bit overwhelmed and under-resourced, and recognising that there is support out there, and someone will be able to come and hold your hand, will sort of help you feel a little bit less overwhelmed. Before everyone disappears, can you just pop 3 words into the chat, just as a very quick brief bit of feedback, 3 words into the chat for how you're feeling at the end of the session, and then please do feel free to disappear and enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon, and hopefully you've got some sunshine as well.